Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name's David Austin, and sitting across from me, a very official-looking, lovely Londa Sherwood Austin. How are you, sweet darling girl?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much.
I love this.
Apparently, I'm official.
You do look official with your sport coat, but when people see it from behind, they see the glitter, they see the lines. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
In fact, the girls in the coffee shop this morning were all a Twitter talking about how you look.
Yes.
It was very nice.
Yes, it was very sweet of them, and it feeds my ego, which is nice. But this is from Hip Chick.
Yep, Hip Chick.
Yeah, and it is fantastic. And for our YouTube viewers.
Oh, are you showing the world? Look at that. The sparkle, the magic. Okay. I like your shoes, too.
Keep the shoe.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's all there is to that. Okay, the last couple of weeks, we've had really, really strong response with our sales training discussions.
Yes.
We talked about the ask, which is something critical to every single sale, except for the luck into the sale.
Yeah, and that
sales.
happens every once in a while, right?
That does. Then we talked about motivation. Mm-hmm. I'm still waiting to hear from people about what's their personal motivation. I've heard a couple. Mortality motivation is a big one for you right now.
Huge.
My motivation is connection. I enjoy connections with people.
You do.
The money is far less important to me than the connection.
Right.
But as you said, the money is great because it gives you choices.
Yeah, money gives you options and choices. And I always had a pretty, I think, unhealthy relationship with money growing up and in my early years.
Tell me more about that. Don't gloss over that.
Well, my parents were kind of odd with money.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like we never had money for the things I needed, but they always had money for what they wanted.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, it's fascinating considering that I repeated that pattern then in my first marriage. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that's how it felt to me.
I gotcha.
Right? And, therapists say you work out your unfinished childhood business in your marriage. So I think that's interesting. And I think that I'm just then I got to a place in my life where I had a career, made a truckload of money.
Yes. And
I think that was really helpful to me because what I realized is I can have a really healthy relationship with money. And also I realized it doesn't really buy you happiness. That's really the epiphany came to me my first year selling real estate when I made over $100,000. And I was like, oh, I have all the money to me, all the money I could ever want now.
Right. And
turns out I'm still not happy. I can buy whatever I want. I'm still not happy.
Interesting.
So then as a couple of more years went by, I realized, oh, this gives me options.
Okay.
And so how do I get the money? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's very interesting. And before we get off the topic of your self-proclaimed unhealthy relationship with money early on, I think less than an unhealthy relationship, more so you had a scarcity mentality. You didn't have enough money, so you couldn't get the things for you. You always provided for the children. You always provided for the household. And as a child, the household provided food and shelter, but there was never enough money to go around, it sounds like. Does that make sense? It sounds more like...
yeah, even in my childhood, like I think I recently told you a story about, I think I was a junior in high school, and my mom bought my prom dress for me, and that was very unusual. By the time I started high school, it was expected that I work and pay for my own things.
Absolutely.
Outside of food and that was in the home,
right?
And the home, food and shelter. So anything I wanted outside of that, school activities, clothes, toiletries, my car. I bought my first car. I paid my own insurance and gas and all that stuff. And that's a kind of a double-edged sword, right? That's like, I learned a lot about being self-sufficient and working hard for what you want.
Right.
And those are really good life lessons.
Yes.
And on the other hand, I felt as a kid growing up that my needs weren't a priority.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get off that.
Well, but that helps to understand your motivation, right? I didn't have an unhealthy relationship with money growing up, but I had a very similar circumstance. My parents knew that the only way I was going to be responsible is if I made my own money and paid rent. So I started paying rent when I turned 15. Literally.
Yeah, I know, which is crazy.
And a lot of kids at their 18th birthday or their high school graduation got a pile of cash from their parents that they had secretly put in a savings account,
right,
so that they could then say, here's some money for college.
Right.
Instead of that, for me, I got a good firm handshake and a congratulations.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do about college?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get it.
Yeah.
I always look on the bright side of stuff, I think. So
100% you do. In case there's any question for anyone out there, you 100% do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you learned a lesson about money, and I'm sad that it felt scarce and you felt left out.
Well, I think that we learn about life as children, right? And it shapes us and it hardwires those neural pathways, and developing new pathways in your brain is something you can do.
Right.
Keeping in mind those old ones are always still going to be there, and they're such a well-worn path. They're very easy to go down. So it takes a lot of self-discipline to create new ones. And if you work in sales at all, customer service, it's helpful to examine your history and how you felt about asking for things, asking for your needs to be met.
Yes.
And about how you thought about money growing up, because all of that affects the way that you operate in sales today.
Yes. That's true. And that's why I wanted to get a little deeper into this, because you have a unique perspective into sales, and you are wildly successful at it.
Why,
and you always have been, you know.
I love it. I think part of why, though, I'm successful is I've always had a lot of respect for it, and I love it. And I got my feet wet in real, like, grown-up sales at Nordstrom 30 years ago, and what a place to 30 years ago, the sales training at Nordstrom and the expectations of us as salespeople were so high, and the training was so stellar that I thought, this is an art, and this is something I can be really good at. And, you know, I was just telling you recently, when I was in high school, I wanted to go into acting.
Right.
And then, you know, I didn't, and, you know, how life happens or whatever. But for me, getting into sales at Nordstrom was a little bit like that, because you had to dress the part, right? Then you had to act the part.
Right.
And so it was kind of
theater.
Yeah.
It was theater. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you love sales because it's a performance.
I guess a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Ew, if I'm being completely honest, but does that feel icky though?
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
But I've always gained acceptance through
unless
performance.
You're disingenuous. If you're lying,
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
you've talked about not having to believe in a product to sell it.
Well, I did for a short period of time, and it was a very desperate, dark time in my life, and I sold a product that I was pretty sure was a scam, but then people just kept convincing me it wasn't. And anyway, that's a whole thing. But what I wanted to say, though, is my whole life from very, very young, I was performance oriented, because that's how I gained approval.
I gotcha.
You know, my mom, for all her faults or whatever, was the best audience ever. She thought my brothers and I were the most hilarious people on the face of the planet. And frankly, my oldest brother, Joe, is one of the funniest humans I've ever ever met. Like,
That's
he
awesome.
can get you rolling and like your cheeks hurt, because you're laughing so hard. But yeah, my mom was such a great audience. And so I gained acceptance performing.
You and I have that in
Whole life.
common.
Yeah.
That was my childhood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I loved it. And I still get a thrill from performing. You know, when I was a senior in high school, I'd done the high school musical every year. But my senior year, I did not do the high school musical because instead I went and played the romantic lead at the local college.
Oh, yes.
In The Tempest. I was Ferdinand, the young lover.
Of course you
It
were.
It was a very fun experience. And, I don't think of myself as the smartest guy around. So doing Shakespeare, those words don't come easy to me. So I really had to practice. And the girl who was my romantic co-lead, I loved practicing with her. It was really fun.
I bet you did.
It was fun. There was nothing untoward. I had a girlfriend at the time. And then shortly after the play, I got a different girlfriend who was also in the play. So there you have it, and there it is. That's all we need to say about that. But I can totally relate about performing. I'm clicking around on the keyboard while we do this. Anyway.
Okay.
These are all good topics to lead us
really
into
good foundation for
sales.
Yes.
And the thing that I want to make clear to our listeners is your reason for being in business is unique to you, and we're excited to hear about it. And once you've decided your why, and you've decided you're going to go into sales,
right,
and you're going to pursue a career in a specific field, how do you get started? That's what I want to talk about today.
I'm brand new. How do I start?
That's exactly right. And it really doesn't matter what the industry is, because all of these principles are shared
100%.
across all industries.
A question for you. I don't think I've ever asked you before, because you and I have both, each of us, been to a lot of different sales trainings.
Yes.
What's your favorite training system that you've ever used? Is it Core?
Yeah, it's a good one. The Core is a good one. Zenix has a really good training system as well. I think my favorite sales training that I ever got professionally was in broadcast sales, because broadcast sales is really less tangible than selling a product, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to sell a commodity.
You're literally selling air.
The way I looked at it is I was selling results and I was selling response. And response has less value than results, right?
Okay.
Response feels good. Here's what I mean. When you are buying radio time, and I know you've been on the radio, and your friends say, "Oh my God, Londa, I heard your commercial and it was so good."
Right.
That feels great.
Yeah.
That's response. That is not results.
Gotcha.
Results are you make more money because you did an ad campaign.
Right.
And your investment is more than, or your results, your return is more than your investment. That's results.
I gotcha. Okay.
So what I'd like to discuss with potential customers selling radio was what they need for it to be a good campaign. And most people say, well, if I spend $400, I need to make $4,000. And my answer to that would be, okay, that sounds like the best investment in the world. Everybody should be doing radio if that's how you make money doing it, because if you can make 10 times your investment, why wouldn't you do it, right? That's not realistic, though. Let's talk about what it would really be to be successful. If you spend $400 and you make $401, it was successful because you made $1, right?
Yeah.
You lost nothing, you made $1.
Yep.
Would you consider that to be successful?
Yes.
What if...
Would I look for something more successful? Yes.
Sure. What if...
still, you're not going backwards.
What if I could talk to you about your perfect customer and how much your customer is worth to your business over the life cycle of your average customer? This works great, by the way, with dentists. Here's why. dentists take classes in college about marketing dentistry, and they all know these numbers already.
Okay.
They know what the lifetime of a patient is. They know what the average expense over the lifetime of that patient is. So dentists are great. And once I learned from dentists that they all know it and track it, I decided to strip through that category and go visit every single dentist until I sold every radio station on a dentist. Because it was easy. And now we're talking about how to get started in a line of work, right? So anyway, dentists know that the lifespan of a customer is maybe 3 to 5 years. I don't know the numbers anymore, but I looked them up and learned them and then went to see all the dentists, right? So let's say it's 5 years.
So you did your homework on your own time.
Correct.
Which we did talk about in a previous podcast.
Absolutely. So when I walked into my first dental appointment selling radio, I already knew what his answers were. And the first question I asked always, because Malcolm Adams always had me reverse engineer them into buying it themselves.
That right there, by the way, I want to come back to.
Okay.
I'm going to write something down while you keep talking.
Okay. I would ask them, okay, what is your available marketing budget? Right? And every single dentist was like, I'm not sure. How much does your service cost? And I said, no. Let's not talk about expense yet. Let's talk about expectations, and let's talk about what you need. Because I can talk all day about my radio stations.
And another approach to that is to just drop your cost. Tell them anything, any price. Well, it's usually around this to this, but let's not get into that yet.
Well, but no, because that's like saying to a doctor, hey, doc, I appreciate that you want to take my blood, but I need you to get to the bottom line right now. What's wrong with me? I got a weird fingernail. I need to know what's going on.
I understand what you're saying, and there's a portion of the population, personality-wise, that wants the doctor to say, my best guess right now is that it's a fungus, but let's go ahead and do, but I don't want to bank on that. Let's not park there because we still want to open up other possibilities, and so let's go ahead and do the testing, blah, blah, blah.
So then my
something.
So then my question for you is, how much does it cost? Because it's an intangible to me. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know what you need. I know 30 seconds on the radio station may be $180, but I don't know what you need.
And that's a perfect answer that satisfies the same thing.
Okay. So they would tell me...
Fight.
They would tell me typically, I have about $3,000 for my broadcast budget. And I would say, well, how much are you spending now in broadcasting? And they would say... well, I'm not really doing it right now. I've tried some things, but I'm not really doing it now. Great. So they're interested. They just told me how interested they are. They just told me they have $3,000 to spend.
Right.
So now I'm going to talk to them about the results they'll get with $3,000, right? And let's pick a thing. I was selling radio when Zoom tooth whitening was brand new.
Right.
So I saw every dentist in Baton Rouge to talk to them about cosmetic dentistry. Right. Every single one, right? And so I knew that the Zoom procedure at that time was $99. Okay. And if you spend $3,000, how many Zoom procedures do you need to do to make your money back? Well, they would all say $3,000 divided 99 divided by 3,000, and that's the number they'd give me. And I'd say, well, wait a second. Before we started talking about Zoom procedures, you told me that once you get a patient in here, 2 out of 3 become lifetime patients. And each lifetime patient is worth $2,500 for you if all they do is average maintenance and cleanings twice a year, and then they get their cavities and all that. Each one's worth $2,500 for you. So if we sell 3 Zoom tooth whitening procedures, you'll get 2 lifetime patients. So if we sell 3 Zoom tooth whitening procedures, you'll make $5,000. And if you're only spending $3,000 a month with me, I just turned it into a multi thing. Then if we get you 3 Zoom procedures per month for the next 3 months, then you have more than tripled your investment.
And you probably did it on paper.
I sure did.
And showed it to them, which we did talk about in our last podcast.
That's exactly right.
Well. It's so powerful. Oftentimes the business owner or whoever, the person that you're selling something to,
Right.
they have one perspective on it, just like that. And part of our job is to educate them on another perspective. And we were talking about this in the last, maybe the last podcast or something about commissions when they ask you to discount your cost,
Yes.
right? And sometimes it's just a matter of educating them up front how that breaks down in the beginning. And you did it with their results.
That's exactly right.
So
That's
smart.
and that is not my invention. That is what I was
Nothing's new.
trained. You know, I was
Nothing's new
trained
under
to see
this- yeah.
things that way. And Malcolm Adams was great at that conversation with me. Now, I had an unfair gift in broadcast sales because not only did I know how to have that conversation, and let me tell you, Rebecca Breeding hired Malcolm to teach me that. I believe that's true. I believe she hired a rock star sales ninja to teach me, an on-air guy, how to be a rock star sales ninja. So I think that was all very purposeful.
Maybe,
right?
I don't know.
I think it was.
But it's interesting you use that terminology because that brings us to my favorite sales training ever, which is called Ninja Selling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, you need to diagnose the problem and prescribe the remedy.
Yeah.
If you can do that in sales, any product,
Right.
you will be successful.
Right.
If all you have is product knowledge, you need to work at Lids at the mall and sell celebrity baseball hats. If all you have is product knowledge, you need to be a guy who works at a catalog, not a salesperson, because product knowledge is far less important than helping to solve your customer's problem.
When I go to a sales training and they start talking about selling the features and benefits, I just want to get up and walk out because that there is an aspect to that, but it's so small. You can sell some features and benefits after you know what the problem is, but really knowing your client, understanding who they are, and what they need is the most important thing you can do. But I'm new to sales, and where do I find those people?
Right. Well, if you're new to sales and where you find those people, my advice is to look within. Before you start going without, look within.
Yes.
Look for the people who know and love you and learn how to ask them for help. If you ask people who know and love you for help, they will help you. If you ask people who know and love you to buy something, they may slam the door. So ask them for help. If you ask people for help, they want to help and they will.
Help is what you need.
That's exactly right.
You've got to be, and you said this earlier because you asked me, what I want to know is what your secret sauce is.
That's what I want to, that's what I want to
sales.
walk away from this podcast with.
As I started describing kind of how I got started and this or that, you were like, oh, vulnerability.
That's right.
You were vulnerable and asked for help. And that's exactly right. And I think that it's really important to listen, get the mindset where you know the deal will come. The sale will come. Just relax, let go. And this is something Ninja Selling teaches is do not be attached to the outcome.
Okay.
It puts you in a place of such freedom when you're in sales, especially when you're brand new and you're getting started and you're just going out asking people for help. And the way that I started that in real estate was having to learn how to do a market analysis of a home and get a value range.
Right.
I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
And I needed practice. Now I could just pull up random addresses or whatever, I guess, and practice that way. But I thought, well, wouldn't it make more sense for me to have practical practice? And so I just put a message on my Facebook asking people. I said, "Hey, I need to. You guys may know I started real estate. It's a huge learning curve for me, and I've got to learn how to do something called a CMA, which is a current or comparable market analysis,
Right.
where I learn your home's value. And there's a lot of different pieces and parts to it. and it's kind of hard. So I need to practice. And that was all true. 100%.
Yes.
Authentic.
Yes.
I need to dial this in before I get my first call to come do a listing appointment. I got to dial this piece in.
And the problem most new realtors make, and I've been
Can I just finish that thought really quick?
Sure.
So then because you got to finish with the ask.
Right.
So I said, if you would be willing to let me come to your house, do a walkthrough and practice doing this, please private message me. And the reason I told them to private message me is I thought nobody would respond. But if I had said private message me, nobody would know that no one responded.
Right.
So yes, I was vulnerable, but at the same time, I covered my ass a little bit because I thought nobody's going to do this. People did. But go ahead.
Well, you were being told at that time in your career, work with buyers. Much easier to work with buyers than to do listings. Listings are hard. You'll ultimately learn listings, but you didn't take that tack.
Well, actually, what I was told was even worse than that. Hey, just expect that you're only going to work with buyers. Don't expect any listings.
Yeah.
But there was one little comment that was made from somebody, I don't even remember who it was. I think it may have been my first mentor, Joe Mullins, said, if you list, you live.
Right.
And I grabbed hold of that and thought, well, then why would I want to work with a bunch of... And then also my brain just works this way where I thought, but if I'm working with a buyer, won't I be working with a seller? Don't most people sell a house to buy another?
Right.
Like, I know you're going to have first-time home buyers, but I knew right from the beginning that was not going to be my niche market.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to work with families who were moving up.
Right.
Upsizing.
Yes.
Because their family's growing or changing or whatever.
So, and you could relate to that. That's why
totally
your best customer looks just like you. And I don't mean racially looks just like you.
No.
I mean situationally looks just like you.
Which is why now I'm circling back to you said reverse engineer. Okay. One of the best things you can ever do, take all the sales training, get all the coaching, all blah, 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 blah. One of the best things you can ever do is reverse engineer how you buy.
Yes.
Then duplicate that process.
Yes.
For your consumers.
Yes.
Because the way you buy is typically you attract who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you buy a product or a service is typically the way your people are going to buy your product or service.
Right.
So that's just a little side note. But I want to get back to, I'm brand new. Where do I start? We're talking about being vulnerable and asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to ask for help is, who do you know who could help me get started? And however that conversation looks, it could be, who do you know that has a housing problem?
Sure.
That I can get in front of today? Who do you know that is really adventurous with food because I'm opening a new restaurant and I want to invite them to my soft open?
Right.
Who do you know that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of different
who do you know that's always talked about doing radio for their business but hasn't done it? Mm-hmm. I need to go see that person. Even
who do you know that has talked to you about increasing their sales?
That's exactly right.
I need to go talk to that person.
Who do you
see
know
if this will be a fit,
that isn't happy with the way their business is running right now? I need to get in front of that person.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Who do you know that just complained about their haircut or their hair color?
That's right.
Or their whatever. I need to go see them because we work with a salon, you know, and we work with some restaurants, and we've worked with lots of real estate and lending and lots of different business owners.
Yep.
So I'm kind of trying to, so the who do you know that I can get in front of is a really important question. And as you can see, none of this is asking the person across from me for business.
Right. But
it is asking for help.
When you ask for help, you are now relevant in that person's mind in that field.
Right.
So let me say that a different way. If you call somebody and say, hey, I have good news. I have become a real estate agent. I would like to see if you are interested in a new home. That is a mistake.
Hello.
Hello. My name is David. I am selling magazines. No.
Now, if you make that call to 1,000 people, you might get a sale.
That's exactly right.
So there's two ways to look at that, but still,
if
why
you
work that hard?
If you write down the names of your 100 favorite people,
yeah,
and you call your 100 favorite people and say, I am calling to tell you the good news. Oh my God. I've just started a business consulting firm with Londa in Florida. I need your help because the startup costs were enormous. So I have to hit the ground running. Who do you know that has complained about the supply chain at their business? Who do you know that has complained about hiring at their business? Who do you know that has complained about their cash flow at their business?
This is so good. It's so relevant.
I need to get in front of them today. If you call your 100 favorite people and say that, guess what? Mm-hmm. If they haven't already heard it, they're now turned on to hearing it, and they are going to put you in touch with their people. Right. If they say they don't know anybody,
then you teach them how to use you by saying, will you please listen for those conversations?
Yes.
And when they come up, will you please put me in touch with them?
And let me tell you something. Once you're a now buyer for something, you see all of that something that you're a now buyer for.
Well, that's the reticular activating system. It's psychology. There's, that thing, the RAS in the base of your brain, that we program it with what we put in front of it. We're looking at cars right now to tow behind our RV, and so we see them everywhere. You see Jeep Wranglers everywhere.
That's exactly right. I saw one today.
I don't want to pay that much money.
They're too expensive for what it is. You know what I mean? I just don't. I'm going to buy one of those Chevy roller skates that Danielle used to have. The Spark, yes. That is the third most popular tow-behind vehicle. Did you know that?
No.
The stupid roller skate Chevy Spark.
They don't look as much like a roller skate now as they did in 2014.
Right. They look like the old Honda Civic hatchbacks now.
Yeah.
That's what they look like.
Yep.
Except you can pull them flat behind your RV.
Yeah.
And they weigh like 6 ounces.
So coming back, the other thing we tell people is, and I will keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it. I hope we say it in every single podcast. Tell everyone you know who you are and what you do.
That's exactly right.
And hopefully you learn how to work it into conversation without being a weirdo, and make it casual and, not a big deal. But even if you do work it in, awkwardly, at least work it in.
Right.
Everybody needs to know who you are and what you do.
And if you're on a school parent-teacher organization board, if you're in a church worship team, everywhere you go, you need to tell people who you are and what you do. Let me tell you something. I want to talk about my friend Jim Zimmerman just for a second.
Okay.
I love that guy. He and I have been friends for, Jim, 20 years? He, at church, is like a local politician. He's like the mayor. So I have a friend who leads the worship teams at his church. The music minister is a friend of mine. So he asked me to come in and sing a solo with the choir and then play trombone on Sunday, right? And Jim is in the choir, and I got news for you. Every single person at First Presbyterian in Kennewick, Washington knows if you need a home loan, Jim Zimmerman is your guy.
Okay.
And he's not walking around shaking hands and hugging people saying, I do loans.
No.
He's truly just having fellowship with the people at his church.
Yes.
But he has let them know in some way, maybe subtly, maybe overtly, I don't know, what he does. So there's no one at First Presbyterian in Kennewick, Washington that does not know Jim Zimmerman is the loan guy.
And that was kind of my MOPS experience, right? So there's an international organization called Mothers of Preschoolers. And once you phase out, you get to be one of the gray hairs. You can be a MOPS mentor mom.
Right.
And they meet weekly or every other week or monthly or whatever. And you're assigned to a table. So you're with the same 7 moms for the whole year.
Right.
And I was a mentor mom for MOPS.
Right.
Because I was passionate about encouraging moms. I still am very passionate about encouraging moms. In fact, because homeschooling this year is seeing a resurgence, I'm considering putting out an ebook on homeschooling because I have so much experience and I just think it would be valuable to offer to people.
I don't think the consideration makes any sense at all. Just do it.
Okay. All right. I got to go. I think I probably already have it written somewhere, but and I just need to find it and pull it out.
And we just need to e-publish it, which is really not publishing it. That's just putting it on the internet and selling it for $7.
But anyway,
isn't that awesome?
Yeah. So but that was my niche market was really those MOPS moms is kind of where the base of my real estate career came from.
Right.
And I never had to talk about real estate.
Right.
Ever. I never did. Now, and part of it was as simple as this. I would come to the MOPS meeting dressed professionally.
Right.
And people would say, oh my gosh, why are you so dressed up? Oh, well, I got to go to work later. What do you do? Boom.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Ninja Selling talks about that as well. Your favorite sales training system talks about doing things with people that you like and want to be around and letting them know what you do. Don't talk about it.
Yeah, I just talked with a client about this, and they were talking about, we were talking about client parties, which I actually have written down later to talk about. And I was saying, you've got to track where your clients are coming from to know if it's a valuable investment of your time and money.
Right.
Whatever you do. This particular thing was client parties. And she said, well, what if I just really like throwing parties? I said, then throw parties, but don't invite just clients. And then we talked about, I have a really particular, specific formula for how to do that. That is proprietary. I'm not going to share it. I share everything, but I'm not going to share that. And I first learned the initial like baby concept of it at Ninja, and then I grew it into something else that's explosive for business. Yeah. But I save it for my clients because I got to save a little bit.
So what I would say is to get started in any sales, figure out who your customer is, who your target customer is.
Yep. If you can figure out your niche market, that's really, really helpful.
And hang out with those people. Be with those people.
Yeah. Start a book club if that's what you're into.
If you want to sell twice moved manufactured homes in rental parks, you need to go hang out at the VFW and wait to meet the veterans who are buying those. The only reason I say the VFW, I'm not picking on veterans. They're the only people that can get a standard loan for a twice moved manufactured home.
That.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to be the twice moved manufactured home guy, you need to hang out at the VFW. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
If you want to be,
and actually the VFW is really fun because usually they almost always have somebody who's giving dance lessons. That's not like an instructor, but they know how to dance and they're free.
I don't know what kind of parties you're going to at the VFW.
I used to go to the VFW before I was of age.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that. Get off that. Get off that.
So now the next step.
They were giving you dance lessons.
So the next step is we've talked. Nope, I'm trying to move on. We've talked about.
If you want to sell $1 million houses, listen. If you want to sell $1 million houses, hang out at the country club. Don't hang out at a bar. Don't hang out at Sam's Saloon if you want to sell $1 million houses. Hang out at Meadow Springs if you want to sell $1 million houses. Don't hang out.
But if you want the most bomb-ass breakfast you've ever had, then go hang out at Sam's Saloon.
Yes.
We got to get to our next thing, though. Come on.
Be your perfect customer, and then you'll get that customer.
For sure. Absolutely.
Do you know why I don't wear suits to work?
Because your customers don't wear suits.
My customers own the business. They wear golf shirts and nice pants. Salespeople wear suits.
Right.
I'm not selling to salespeople. I'm selling to the owner of their company.
Unless that's just your style.
Well, but my style, just so you know.
Not you.
My style is based on what my customer is. And I want to look like my customer.
Right.
I learned that from Malcolm Adams as well. I also learned that from Bill Ridgel. Bill Ridgel wanted me to wear a shirt and tie at every radio station because he wanted me to look professional, right?
Right.
That's at the Louisiana Network. I got to the first 20 radio stations that were our affiliates, and the owners all wore slacks and a golf shirt. I lost the shirt and tie. Sorry, Bill. I'm going to look like my customer. You told me to look like my customer. Well, my customer doesn't look like that. The people selling radio look like that. The owner of the station does not.
Right.
And there you go. That's all I have to say about that. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to move on to, listen, I'm seasoned. So we talked about I'm new. How do I get started? I'm seasoned, and most of my business comes from referrals, but I want to kind of crank it up and get more business. How do I do that?
Let me tell you how you don't do it. You don't do it by answering the text message or the email that you get from some company wanting to sell you leads.
And we're going to get in. Do you want to get into that right now?
Well, that's not how you up your referral business, right?
Right. No, it's not. So how do you maximize your current database for referrals? And I would say the first thing that you do is, going back to what we just talked about a few minutes ago, you call them and you say, listen, I'm just doing some follow-up today. This will be really quick, less than 5 minutes. Have you enjoyed my services?
Okay.
Well, yeah. Is there anything you do differently about working, with me or our transaction or anything? And most people say no. Great. So who do you know that? And the same thing that we just said a few minutes ago.
Yes.
It's the same scripting. Who do you know that needs me is basically what you're asking
That's
them.
perfect. So look through your past customer base and call them. Unless it was somebody you didn't enjoy working with, then maybe don't call them.
If you did not enjoy working with them, get them out of your database.
I actually heard you say something funny once when you said to me that you told a customer, and please do not refer your friends to me. I didn't tell them that. Because they're like you, and I don't want to work with them.
I did not tell them that.
You just thought it?
I told my office mate, I hope to God these people do not refer anyone to me, because they'll be just like them.
Yes.
And nobody should have diarrhea for 3 days.
Because of a deal.
Yeah, because of a deal. So anyway, but back to this. So
okay, well, that's part and parcel to that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you don't like them, get them out of your database.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get a lot of clients who talk to me about their customer appreciation events, or client parties.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, like we're going to rent the movie theater and you're going to come to the movie theater and I'm going to let you and your family watch Spud the Wonder Dog, the movie, and it's going to be great.
Well, that's okay.
Is there a movie called Spud the Wonder Dog? I don't know.
I don't know. But yes, so things like that. So this is what I would say about that. If you've done some of those events, track the data.
Okay.
To see if it's working.
That's a great thing to do.
If your business is all coming from referrals, then you've got data to look at. And if you're not tracking it, if you come and work with me, that's one of the first things we're going to do is track the data and find out where the business is coming from.
I like that.
And then you're going to drill down on that. So that I think that's the easiest way to data mine mine your database. And get more from your database and get more referrals is figure out exactly where the business is coming from. So if you do client parties, and let's say you've done 2 client events every year for the last 3 years.
Okay.
Even if you only did it 1 year, you've got plenty of data. But I want to know how many people you invited. Of those, how many came to your event, right? And of those who came to the event, how many deals did you actually close?
Okay. From referrals after the fact. Or more business with them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if you can't tell me those numbers, then
stop doing those events because you're throwing money into the wind.
The last real estate client I worked with said invited, I think the numbers were 60 people to the events. About 10 usually show up. 0 business in 4 years. And the average cost of each event was about $1,500.
So literally setting money on fire.
Just putting a big pile of cash in the middle of the table, lighting it up.
Yeah.
So we talked about some different ways to do that.
And
now,
how do you convert business from that directly? That's something you need to know going into it, right? How do you have the conversation with every person that comes to pick up a pie at your pie party, or with every person that, you know what I mean?
yeah.
How do you have that conversation? And some people have it well, and some people don't even think about it. And if you don't think about it, you will not get return.
Right.
Right?
Well, I mean, it depends.
You can luck into business, but I mean strategically.
If you're going to be strategic about building your business from your referrals, from your current database, then you've got to ask for the business somewhere within that strategically. Now, if you just want to build, connection with your people, which referrals do come from connection.
Yes.
And your business is a prime example of that. Mine is not, because I'm not great at connection, and I connect with, really connect with a smaller percentage of my clients and database than you do, because I'm not a natural connector as far as connecting with you. Now, I'll connect you to everyone you need to know. I'm a connector that way, but I hold my cards kind of close, I protect my heart a little bit.
And I think that has to do with trauma.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I made a post yesterday on Facebook about all the surgeries I've had this year. And this year's just been the highest highs and the lowest lows.
Right.
And there's just been so much that has happened. And I had one major surgery to deal with cancer diagnosis, and then I had 5 oral surgeries, and we started a business, and we started a podcast, and we've traveled a lot, and we've had 5 business trips between Washington and Florida. And I mean, it's just been nuts. And yesterday I had the last oral surgery.
Yeah. If I knew it was coming, I'd be quicker on that.
Sorry. Thankfully. Oh, and I had COVID too, so I throw that in there. But
we think you had COVID.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yes, we think I had every single symptom. But
do you know they have an over-the-counter test that takes 30 minutes at home? I did not know that.
No.
You can get that at CVS.
Okay, that's great.
CVS.
Thank you.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, your fake commercial. We haven't heard a fake commercial in a long time. I miss them. But I made a Facebook post about, this is the last surgery, I hope, this year.
Right.
And it was just a very vulnerable, a very vulnerable post that I made.
Yes.
And people were so sweet and so caring. It blew me away. And I even commented on the post after 40 people had sent their well wishes, and it was just so heartfelt. And I said, every time I open up my tender little heart to you guys, you just cradle it so carefully. And I meant that. It's so much easier for me to do it on social media than one-on-one.
Yeah.
Which I think is why, So when I was living in Washington full time and was doing 2 client events every year, I purposefully designed those for connectivity, relationally.
Yes.
Because it's not my strong suit.
My favorite client event that you ever did was when you had all of your team over for omelets and waffles. And they came to our house in West Richland, and I got to make
that's the one that you were
the
part
omelets.
Of, yeah.
It was such a fun event, and I think we made lifelong friends at that event. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I need to call Doug Thomas. He left me a voicemail.
He did.
And I love that guy.
What do you think about client gifts? For instance, there is a training, I think it's Tom Ferry, that teaches monthly referral gifts for people.
Yes.
What do you think of that? I think it's dumb, but
well, I think gifts are great, and I think gift baskets are really, really good. I don't do a ton of that because of the RESPA laws, right? I'm not really supposed to give gifts for referrals.
Right. No, I'm just curious what you think of the concept of it.
I think
every month you have your top 10 people that refer to you, and you put together a gift basket of some kind and deliver them to those people.
I think that's a great idea, unless it's criminalized behavior, which it is in the lending industry. I cannot do that.
Right, but I know realtors who do it and other people as well. So,
and there are some lenders in town that still send coffee cards, even though they've been prosecuted for doing it. Yeah. So I would say I like the idea of it a lot. Mm-hmm. It has to be very specific. I can give a closing gift to a customer, and I think gift baskets are a great closing gift. I cannot give a thank you gift for a referral. That is against the law. That's a RESPA violation.
Right.
It's
okay.
pay for
and
play.
I get that, and we all understand it very clearly now. But I just was curious what you thought of the concept of it.
I think the concept is great, and I wish it were something that I were legally allowed to do. How's that?
Yeah. And I have a very opposite view on that.
Tell me why.
I think it's a waste of time and money. And I would rather take those 10 people and invite them to my house for dinner.
And that's a great use of your time and your money.
And do a dinner party and spoil them.
And I love that.
Try to figure out strategic connections between the group to help them, I don't know.
I love it that you do that.
But maybe
and that's different. That's a standout, right? That's a standout thing. Cutco Knives used to come calling on every lender in town. Hey, say thank you to your realtors by sending them Cutco Knives for every closing. Not legal.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can do it for your customers, though.
Yeah.
You can say thank you to your customers that way.
Well, this brings up something else that client gifts, that's very common in real estate. Mm-hmm. And I personally hate branded gifts.
Okay.
Oh my God. The rock with the, so-and-so established and whatever. Very cute. Your name and logo on the back of it. Ugh.
You hate that.
Cutco Knives with your information on it.
You hate that.
You don't. Every once in a while, someone does it really well. And I'll tell you who does it really well is Chris Kogel. Now Herman. She just got married.
Right.
But her team, My Home Real Estate, they actually do branding gifts that are brilliant because the name of their company is My Home Real Estate, right? So their branding, like they do these beautiful serving trays that say something like, welcome to my home.
And it's their logo, My Home.
And the My Home is in their logo.
Smart.
So it's so good. In fact, when I saw it, I was equal parts thrilled because of the genius of it and jealous that I hadn't thought of it, right?
That's fun. That's
fun. They do a really good, that is really good, but it's so rare to see it like that.
Right.
I think if you give a Cutco knife and you don't put your logo on it, they're going to think of you when they use it anyway. I don't know. If somebody has a really good, if someone can convince me otherwise, I would love to hear the argument. But for some reason, I just hate that.
I think the best gift you can give someone is working toward the time frames you've agreed to and delivering on those deliverables that everybody's looking forward to. I think that's the best gift you can do.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, and you update your customers throughout the process of whatever sale that's happening or a marketing campaign or whatever, you will be successful and they will remember you. I can't tell you a job that I've had where I have not tracked my results, and at least 50% of my business is from past customers.
I know you do a killer referral business. Just really quickly, I want to wrap up with this idea. What do I do when somebody calls me trying to sell leads?
I say, no, thank you. I often say, I'm trying to dial down my business, and I don't want to spend time and money calling cold calls. Now, there are some salespeople that are very successful who spend a lot of money on those leads. Do you know why they're successful? They are the most disciplined people on the planet.
You have to be.
The reason I don't like those is because the cost per close is higher than any other referral method there is.
Yeah. And when they call me, I usually say, hey, listen, I've already allocated all of my marketing dollars for the year. and I'm not looking to grow my business.
And that's a great getaway story to get out from any sales situation.
It is a good getaway story, but it's also the truth. I just don't want to. I just don't want to call leads. I would rather call people that I know. And you said your 100 favorite people.
Yep.
I'd say make it even easier. Call the 10 people, your 10 closest people. And how do you know who they are? If you broke down on the side of the road, who would you call?
That's exactly right.
Right? Those are the people. If you got locked out of your house and you needed to go somewhere, who do you call?
That's
like those
exactly
kind of
right.
things. Those 10 people,
Yep.
They love you. They want to help you. But I think we can probably talk in another show more about leads and buying leads and what you do with those leads. But for me personally, I think there's an easier way to get leads, if you will, by talking to the people you already know, and also so much less expensive.
If you are disciplined and if you don't mind dialing for dollars, I can name probably 10 realtors who are spectacular at that.
Ozzy Camacho.
Who are successful at that.
Yeah.
I can name 500 realtors, however,
Right.
who hate it, won't do it, not going to waste their time on it.
Yeah, and I've done both. Just to be clear, I spent 2 years on a robo-dialer,
Right.
cold calling. So don't come at me because I've done it.
Well, and I will tell you, I am not disciplined enough to sell that way.
God, every morning, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yep. I do not want to do that. Some people are very successful at that. Rob Lindsay.
I did it.
He used to run a call center in San Diego for mortgages. He used to run it. That's what he did. He would dial for dollars. He had
there you go.
He had a boom microphone.
Well, I do think it's a really good. I think everybody should do it for like at least 6 months. Work a job like that because man, it teaches you to have thick skin.
It does that.
And there you go. We've said it all. We've done it all.
It does that. It teaches you to have thick skin. Listen, I think if you want to be a new salesperson, get used to rejection and get used to calling people you know and love because those are the people that are going to help you grow your business. That's the magic. There's no secret sauce to get started, but there is secret sauce to longevity, and that's a different show.
That is. Yep. Next show.
There you have it, and there it is. This has been The Session with Londa and David. My name's David Austin, and I am thrilled and blessed and honored every week to do this show with my beautiful wife, Londa Sherwood Austin. This has been The Session. We'll talk to you soon.